Welcome back, everybody. We have some major news coming out around Ethereum. We're going to talk merge updates, institutional adoption updates around Ethereum, and then also on-chain analytics that look super bullish, and then finish up with a chart pattern that makes me think we might have another leg up here in the short term for Ethereum. So let's dive right in. Obviously, this news came out just a bit ago, but it's extremely important context for what we're going to cover today. Obviously, recently, one of the lead devs around Ethereum that's kind of managing the merge basically said that we're looking at a target date of September 19th. So this is actually the first time that they've put out an official date. They've kind of danced around a potential month for the update, but they've actually given an official date and kind of described the specific updates that need to happen leading up to that moment on September 19th. So right now, that's kind of the pretext that all investors are kind of using. It's the date that everyone has in mind in terms of when this might actually go down. Now, taking that context, I want to dive into some important institutional investment data here. And this recently came out last week. And this covers basically the week over week, month over month, and year over year investment in some of the largest cryptos in the industry. And what I want to point out here that I think is so important is that in terms of all of the cryptos that these institutions could be purchasing, we're seeing the largest month-to-date growth in investment in Ethereum out of all of these, right? And so, aside from people shorting Bitcoin here. So, we're seeing a divestment in Litecoin, a divestment month over month in Bitcoin, but a month over month increase in investment, $6.6 million into Ethereum this month. So obviously institutions are getting ready for something. There's something going on there. This is one of the largest month over month growth in investments that we've seen in Ethereum from institutions in quite some time, especially considering that we've seen a $450 million divestment from institutions here year over year, and now we're starting to see institutions pick back up on their investment of Ethereum. So really important details there, and something that's definitely worth keeping an eye on. Now, the next thing I want to dive into really fast is the actual on-chain data that we're seeing. So for the first time in a long time, we are seeing massive basically outflows from exchanges of Ethereum. So if you look here carefully, we're going to see that there's been a 40% drop in the inflows to exchanges. 9 times out of 10, when we're seeing large inflows to exchanges, those are investors getting ready to act on that asset. So typically, sell it. If they're going to bring it onto exchange, they're going to sell that. They're going to hold it in a wallet or a staking platform if they're going to hold it. And so they wouldn't put it onto exchanges if their plan was to hold, right? So now we're also seeing an overall almost 100% decrease in the amount of ETH held on exchanges. Now, this is massive, right? This means that you're talking about thousands of investors and plenty of large investors actually making sure that they're holding their Ethereum either in a safer wallet, like a hardware wallet, or in a staking program, something like Lido, right? So it's very interesting to see that finally we're starting to see these outflows from exchanges, right? If you've been following this data, we've actually seen, majority inflows month over month the last few months, but now one of the largest outflows from exchanges we've seen in over a year for Ethereum. So really exciting. I think this is something that we really need to keep our eyes on because this is such an important statistic when we're trying to track what's going to happen next for a cryptocurrency, right? So definitely something we want to keep track of. Now, next, I actually want to cover the ETH to BTC ratio chart and point out some key levels and maybe where we could be headed here in the short term and then also the long term. So let's cover a few key factors here. First of all, the first thing I want to point out here is that we have seen a cup and handle recently. There's the cup and there's the handle, slightly poorly drawn, but you get the idea. And 9 times out of 10, that is a somewhat bullish pattern. So we did see somewhat of a breakout from the base of the handle up to this high point here, this most recent high. It was about 5.76%, around 6% of a gain there off of that cup and handle. Now, I don't think that's a full breakout. Typically, we'd see another 5 to 10% on top of that for a breakout from the target of the handle. So it's going to be really interesting to see if we can actually see the ETH to BTC ratio recover again here, because we're at this kind of key moment right now where we found support again on the bottom of this handle, of the cup and handle. So if I just redraw this for reference, since we are talking about it, you can see that the resistance point is right at the end of that handle. And that's kind of where we'd expect it to come down if we had seen this retreat again. But one more time, obviously, if we were going to see this cup and handle play out completely, we'd expect another 5, maybe even 7% uptick from there. And we'll look at those levels here in a moment. But I think it's really, really important to note that, today, as of this taping, ETH to BTC ratio down about 3%, ETH at the same time, down 7, 8, 9%. So these movements reflect largely on the impact and movement of the price of Ethereum. So meaning if there's a 3% movement here, we're going to see a much larger movement on Ethereum itself. So anytime we're talking about percentages or movements here, very, very important to remind you of that. So again, this is a key level right now, and then if we do lose that 0.675, 0.068, 0.0675 level, we're going to be looking at 0.064, which would again likely mean 1100, 1200 ETH, and maybe even lower than that. And of course, recently we saw kind of this massive ride up here. Just over the last couple weeks, and then we've seen somewhat of a stabilization at the bottom of this cup, which is great to see as well. But if we kind of dive a little bit deeper into where we could be headed next, I'm going to draw out a fib extension here just to give us an idea of what the options would be. So again, if we were to see this cup and handle fully play out, we would be expecting, a ETH to BTC ratio somewhere between 0.073 and this 0.075 marker at the least. So I'd be looking at a 0.075 for that ETH to BTC ratio at the 0.618 Fibonacci level. Now that would mean, maybe somewhere between probably a 1900 to 2100 ETH, which obviously would have everyone quite happy. But at this point, it seems like we're getting rejected at the neckline right here. If you can see that, where this white line is, seems like we're getting rejected at the neckline of the cup and handle right now, which obviously, doesn't bode well, at least for the short term for ETH. So maybe we see somewhat of a consolidation here before going for the cup and handle technical target, which again would be another about 5. Well, from this point, we'd be expecting, another almost 10% increase to the ETH to BTC ratio, which again would mean 30, 40, maybe even 50% increase on the ETH side. So it'd be really, really interesting to see what actually happens here in the coming weeks. But it's really, really important. The whole point of this video is to make sure that you understand that ETH has really, really taken hold in terms of becoming a challenger to Bitcoin in terms of market cap and in terms of overtaking Bitcoin. But a lot going on here, guys, and hopefully this was a helpful video. Hopefully this kind of broke down what could be happening, and I think that it's going to be a very interesting couple weeks for Ethereum. But thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.